The map of presidential vote by state over time allows us to study the concept of electoral realignment in the 20th century. The term realignment is often used by journalists, news media commentators, and political analysts to define a change in power from one party to another as a result of a big election. After the 2006 midterm congressional elections, for example, when the Democrats gained majorities in both the House and Senate, some analysts surmised that a realignment was underway, one in which the Democrats would become the majority party. In fact, as political scientists apply the term, it is impossible to say after one election whether a partisan realignment has taken place. In the strictest sense, party realignment involves a major and lasting change in the voting preferences of the electorate as a result of an issue or set of issues that have a broad and deep impact on public opinion. The changes in voting preferences by party that drive realignment normally begin with a critical election, but the actual realignment of voters can take several election cycles. So a key word in the definition of party realignment is lasting. A minority party can win a big election, even take over the presidency and Congress for a term, but the change could be temporary rather than lasting. In such cases, voters may not realign their voting preferences away from one party and toward another. They may be simply responding to short-term factors that define a particular campaign, policy issues, individual candidates, or the performance of the incumbent party in office. We call these deviating elections, as opposed to realigning elections. In keeping with the assumption that realignments evolve over time, any one of these short-term forces can contribute to a realignment. For example, we often hear reference to the Reagan realignment, referring to a major change brought about by President Ronald Reagan. In fact, individual candidates or leaders do not typically cause a realignment, though they can certainly facilitate a realignment by giving greater meaning to the issues and inspiring voters who might otherwise vote for the candidate of the other party. It is also worth noting that realignments can occur as a result of two different processes, conversion or mobilization. Conversion refers to a process whereby a person switches allegiance from one party to another. Mobilization refers to a process where new voters coming into the electorate choose one party over the other. We normally think of change occurring as a result of party switchers or conversion, but mobilization can be a key aspect of realignments. Consider the major policy changes that brought new voters into the electorate in the 20th century. Women's suffrage in the 1920s, following the 19th Amendment, removal of barriers blocking African Americans from voting with constitutional and legislative acts in the 1960s, and the right of 18-year-olds to vote with the 26th Amendment in 1971. Any one of these changes that brought new voters into the electorate, or historical events that expanded voter turnout, could have mobilization effects on realignment. We invite you to look closely at two major realignments that occurred in the 20th century. The New Deal realignment, beginning in 1932, that created a Democratic majority, and a regional realignment later in the 20th century that made the Republicans the majority party in the South and created a competitive two-party system.